Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a non-traditional legal program with your host and trusted advisor, Liz Myska, your guide through the web of life's dilemmas.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Garland Mann-Lamb. I
got
got it. Okay. From Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. Did I do that? Did I do that
You
right?
did it.
Okay,
You
all
did
right.
it.
Perfect. Perfect. So Garland, you and I have are recent acquaintances in 2021, and you've started introducing me to the web of MCPHS. But tell me and the audience what you do there, and again, how we became interconnected.
Yeah. So at MCPHS, I'm the director of campus life. So I have a really cool job, which has nothing to do with pharmacy or health sciences.
Just campus.
I have my master's in education. People always say, "How did you get to a pharmacy school?" And I said, "I applied to this job, and I thought it was a cool place to be." So here I am. And I oversee our clubs and organizations there. We have our orientation, some of our larger scale programs. And that's kind of how I got connected with you, Liz, right? So when you were our guest speaker for our Schwartz rounds this summer, and we're one of the PA faculty, she introduced us and said, Liz would love to meet and get interested or connected to more students outside of just our optometry. And I was like, I have the perfect way to do this.
You did.
And it was a slow start at first. One of the things about MCPHS is our students are so driven and they are so busy. So sometimes it's a little hard to get started. But we were able to connect with our resident assistants who had a phenomenal experience. And then for our welcome programming back to the semester. And that was especially exciting because, after 18 plus months of not doing anything,
Right.
I think not only were students excited to engage with community members and you and, learn from and about VIPs, but also just to do something
Yes.
that is talking and interacting with other people. And that's what brought me here.
Well, no, and referring to those events, it was palpable. I mean, everybody was really jazzed to be learning about one another, and where they came from, and what their goals are. Not just their career goals, but their life goals. But I want to. We'll return to that. Masters in education. So
Yes.
Did you want to become a teacher? Is that what you
Many moons ago, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to specifically be like a preschool teacher in early childhood education.
Really? Okay.
And
Why the little ones? Why the little ones? Was it just
there's a wonder, a curiosity, and it's fun. A little less, directed by other people, outside sources, I think, when you're looking at curriculum and kind of engaging with students, the kiddos. And I was a nanny. I'm an aunt, very proudly. So I always loved little kids. And then I went to undergrad, and as soon as I was about to apply to the education program there, I said, I don't want to work with kids anymore. I don't want to do that. I was a sociology major, and so I kind of stayed the path. And I said, well, I guess I'll figure out what I want to do, but I love sociology and learning about people and, systems and how we all kind of operate in the world. And I was really involved in undergrad. I was on our campus activity board. I was an intern in our women's center. I was an orientation counselor.
Wow.
And someone said to me once, they said, this is a job. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, working at a university, being an administrator,
like, who knew?
They're like, I'm your supervisor and this is my job. And I thought, oh, it is a job. So I got really invested in, higher education and student affairs is, the umbrella under which I work. And so my master's is in higher education and student affairs. That's the full title, I would say.
Wow.
And
so what does that encompass?
it.
You mentioned clubs and organizations, but
Yeah.
are you trying to within the campus keep students and faculty engaged, or are you looking outside the campus, so to the town, so that there's a town gown connection, or both?
I would say a little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we have about 35 organizations. Most of those are professional organizations. So students, there's like 10 pharmacy organizations. So a lot of them kind of stick to whatever their professional is. And it's just, them gathering together. They put on different programs, different events, activities. And we do have also some cultural clubs. We used to have a pizza club, no longer. It was hard to get that one to keep going, to say, do you just want money to eat pizza? And, I mentioned earlier, our students, they're so dedicated and so driven. Most of them are in accelerated programs. And so we often say we don't have to tell our students to study. We have to work with them to learn to take a break,
right?
And to practice that self-care, which we all talk about. So that's kind of where I come in, of the co-curricular experience. What are you doing outside of your classes that really, maybe can assist you further in your career, but also it's just like fueling your own personal enjoyment, and getting together with others. Even like an ice cream social, something that seems so
innocuous.
Yeah,
right.
But really makes such a difference.
Right.
When you talk to students who said, I haven't really gone into my room in class in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, why don't we talk about other ways to engage? And then additionally, going into the community, WalkFit, I think, is a good example of that. We also do some programs with the other schools, who are related with HECMA, the Higher Education Consortium of Central Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So
sounds like
that's
a disease.
all that's all the schools around the area, to stay connected to the community and engage our students in Worcester. I love Worcester. Everyone in my office loves Worcester. We're huge Worcester boosters. So definitely love showing them all the great things about the city and the people here.
So this is interesting, because Worcester always touts, we have all these, we have all of these schools and universities, but then each one seems to be like its own little fiefdom, and never the twain shall meet. And the only, I'm saying this anecdotally. I did not go to school, undergrad or advanced in Worcester. But when I've tried to do outreach, well, for example, I'll just say Assumption, it was like, you want us to come downtown? Like it's the big city, and it was like, really? I mean, and the reason I'm harping upon this is, I think when you have that little crucible of just a college campus, and this is true in my field in law, when you have these continuing care retirement communities, which are independent living, assisted living, and then long-term care, you just have the same people all the time. Okay, and I see the same thing with college campuses, the same thing all the time. Yes, someone like you is bringing stuff in, and saying, well, let's do the ice cream social, or let's do the pizza party. But then there's never the commingling, and I think that's why I'm so excited that you were receptive to, let's bring in people that and expose the students to people that they probably would not have been exposed to, and they're rubbing elbows with them, and they're realizing, hey, these are people just like me. And they're like my parents or my aunt and uncle or my siblings, and that's, again, the events that we have done together this fall have just been, reinforcing that notion for me, that the skills that are being transmitted between the VIPs, the visually impaired people, the volunteers, and the students, they can be exported to the students' native land, or to wherever they're going to work, because they're learning something that's a skill that cuts across ethnicity and race. It's a people skill.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear you saying about your career, too. These are people skills, and it cuts across the swath of, you're not 19 and you're not, you're, the color of your skin is different from mine, or you like animals and I like, cars, racing cars. It has less to do with that than people, coming into communion almost and realizing, wow, we're different, but we're really the same.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think, going back to your earlier point, it's so easy with college campuses everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Not just in Worcester. Because I think that's the idea, right? You go to college and you have everything you need there.
Yep. Right.
So why do you need to kind of engage outward?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about MCPHS is that we're right downtown.
Yep.
There's no opportunity to not even know the best coffee shop downtown or whatever people think is the best coffee shop, right? Or like to not know the people who work at Crust because you're getting your morning bagel there, right? And I love that. Even our students have to walk.
Yep.
From one side to the other side, and it's all downtown.
Yep.
Even our residence halls, are right around the corner. And that's what I really loved about being here. And I also love that Worcester it's a city, but it feels very not city-like to me.
Yes.
Like it feels very much like a smaller area.
Yeah, it feels like a it feels there are definite pockets where it feels like a neighborhood. Right.
And I think with students, sometimes it's making sure they know about the opportunities and that it's okay to go, wherever and to explore a little bit. You don't need to just do what you're here for. Right. And I know you've been in the Worcester area for a while, and I know our previous president, Charlie Monahan, always talked about how much he loved Worcester. He had the Worcester pharmacies, and that's, I think, a big part of why Worcester, our campus, is here, and to engage in the city. And I think the other side with our students as well is, WalkFit specifically, you were saying, it's about people skills that you can use anywhere.
Right.
And I often say you can teach a student to be a nurse, a physical therapist, a dental hygienist, but to have those people skills, those are things that you acquire. And not everyone has those right out the gate, and sometimes it is having experiences where you're just talking to other people that will 100% translate into your clinical setting and how you're interacting with patients. And sometimes it takes showcasing that aspect, kind of get through to students of why it's important to reach out and to have different experiences. And then I think it is they go and they're like, oh, this is going to be helpful to me. Maybe our optometry students, this is going to be helpful to me. I'm going to meet some people, some VIPs, and I'm going to learn, and that's going to help me in my classes or whatever. But then they have the experience and they're like, this is so cool. Like, Liz is a lawyer. She's not like just a VIP, and that everyone is people.
Yeah. Well, I think
with stories.
I think that's how academia packages things. And when people think of internships or externships, it's, you are going to be like, as a student, hovering on the sidelines, watching, and you're not going to be necessarily called upon to to throw, roll up your sleeves and participate. And that was my catalyst for starting WalkFit. And again, I'm not taking full credit because it required an optometry student who contacted me. This is 7 years ago. And he said, I want to work with a specific element of the blind athlete. And I said to him, not a lot of blind athletes. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but blind athletes are very elite because, and very rare. I said, rather than work with blind athletes, let's work with the blind ordinary, because I myself was just learning about blindness because this was all new to me. My blind gig was all new to me, having come from the sighted world. So it was, and there were lots of fits and starts, and again, people trying to push he and I into, well, this already exists, but it really didn't. But we were open enough to say, well, let's try this out and see if it really does exist. And then we concluded it doesn't exist. We need to start this. And truly, again, we didn't have a game plan. We didn't have a business plan. It was like, who can you recruit of your classmates? And when can we do this? And where can we do it? And so I didn't want it to be like so structured, like you are going to learn this, but I knew that relationship building, because what I had felt with my eye care professionals, there was no connection. Mm-hmm. They were great at diagnosing, but they couldn't converse with me. And so I felt at a loss because I had all kinds of questions that no one had ever asked them because, they didn't know. And it was like, oh, that's somebody, that's not us. That's somebody else's department, not us. And when you are going through, a health crisis, you want someone who has been there. And those were the two things that I vowed. I needed to meet people like me, mm-hmm. Other people who are visually impaired, which was deucedly difficult because they couldn't see me. I couldn't see them. They weren't used to being approached and wanting, I'm talking about the VIPs, and wanting someone to hear their story. They had just been told, well, this is the way it is, put up and shut up, and that's it. So we were really groundbreaking in the sense of, skill building between a patient and a professional, but also relationship building between people because of generational differences, because of cultural differences. Mm-hmm. I remember, and I probably have already told you this story, but there was an optometry student, her name was Esther, and this was in winter walk fit, so we were indoors at St. Vincent's Hospital, so obviously pre-COVID. And she said to me, Liz, how do you know what I look like? And I said, I don't. I don't know what you look like. And she said, so you wouldn't know that I'm Asian American? I said, no, not unless you tell me. So, and again, that is striking because once when I was sighted, well, I would have known, And again, now it doesn't make a difference to me, and I'm not trying to be offensive. It doesn't make a difference to me what people look like. What's important to me, what's inside them. Are they curious? Do they have a heart? Do they want to help people, or is this just lip service where they're like, well, I want to help because it's gonna augment my career or augment my pocketbook or whatever? Yeah. Or are they really sincere in, I want to learn about other people, and I want to learn my entire life, and that's the category. I love people. I love learning about people. What makes them tick, and why is that different from me? Not that my way is better or worse, or their way is better or worse. It's just different, and that has been the revelation for me with sight loss. It's like, I listen intently to how people present or what they express as that they revere or they revile, and then I ponder, like, why, wow, I've never had that experience before, or the way that they articulated it was so powerful that now I'm experienced that empathetically, mm-hmm. Because of the way they. So, and that's why I love the students from all the backgrounds, because like you said, they're driven, like the dental hygienist, the acupuncturist, the physical therapist, and they're eager to, strut their stuff, but sell their wares, but learn in the process. Yeah.
And I love, when I first got my job offer, and I was so excited, and then I got here and I said, I don't know anything about working with graduate and professional students. Why am I here? Don't. I love it so much more, right, than I ever thought I would. And it's never, I always thought I would work with typical undergrad students and, help them do whatever they need to do. But our students just have I think I'm able to have different connections with them. And a lot of them are at so many different places in their life. And have such amazing stories, and we do have so many students who are second or third career,
Really? Wow.
who, and sometimes, even I may be having a conduct meeting, right? Maybe a student has done something that they shouldn't have, and I'm in that meeting with them. But a lot of times by the end of it, I'm learning about them and, kind of what brought them here, why did you decide to be, a physician assistant? Because I agree with you, learning about people and what makes them who they are and being
Right.
curious is such a important skill to have in anything,
Right.
being curious and having wonder, I guess,
Yes.
in the world. And, I mentioned earlier working, originally I wanted to work with and that's
Yep.
part of it, working with
Right.
children. Children aren't afraid to ask questions.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes they ask a question and you think,
Whoops.
what does that even mean? Or, maybe we should ask that at home. But they're just so open. And I think that we need more of that, in life
agree.
of
agree.
wanting to learn and wanting to ask questions, and being less afraid to approach, as you said, people you don't know or maybe would never interact with.
Exactly.
And
And having that aha moment. I think
Mhm.
that, again, when I think back, I was never the type of person that like would join a professional organization. It was just like, I'm not that, again, I would acquire my continuing education
Yeah.
credits, um, by going to a conference, but I wouldn't like hang around, at the
Yeah.
luncheon or something like that. I was acquiring the information for myself. But when I started to lose my sight, it was recommended, Liz, you really need to go to a convention for the blind. And I thought, oh, brother, I really don't want to do this. But anyway, I mean, and there's so many stories that I could relate. But the story that I want to tell was this was in 2010, and it was in Dallas. I'd never been to Dallas before. It's a different story. Huge hotel complex, the Hilton Anatole. And this was a week convention, 3,000 blind or visually impaired people of all ages. I mean, babies all the way up to,
Wow.
octogenarians, I guess it is. But anyway, one of the offerings was a self-defense course. And I thought to myself, oh, I don't want to know about this. I really don't want to know about this. But I'm thinking, yeah, I need to know about this. I
Mhm.
need to know about this because now I'm like a tasty treat for a predator
Mhm.
because I'm advertising the fact that I'm blind because I've got a white cane. When I went into that room, and there was I thought it was going to be a lecture. I really thought that the presentation was going to be a lecture about, always go someplace with a buddy. When I walked into the room, there was no furniture in the room, and I thought,
Oh, you were getting to it.
Oh no, oh no. And we were asked to take off our shoes, and I'd worn my pretty shoes, and it was like, am I going to be able to find my shoes, up against the wall? But then the martial artist came in, the martial artist was sighted, and he sat us all down, and there must have been 60 people in the room, most of the people decidedly younger than I was. And he asked them, have you ever felt preyed upon? And it was the young men that spoke up. And it really wasn't, it wasn't being preyed upon. It was, the young man said, I was in a bar with my buddies, and I got up to use the restroom, and my cane got stuck in the bar chair, and this guy who had been sitting next to me thought, who had too much to drink, thought I was, invading his space. So he was about to punch me, and I didn't know, and my friends had to come rescue me, and I felt humiliated. So the thing that my aha moment was, wow, and people can't articulate this because that person would have been looked on as as feeble or a sissy and it was my like, wow, people harbor all of these feelings and it's all tamped down that they can't express it because that culturally that they would be called a name. They would be called a name. And that sparked my interest of, then I started observing when they came back to Worcester, well, where are the blind people? Well, there weren't any blind people on the sidewalks because, again, it's an inhospitable environment when you don't know the environment. And the very few blind people that I did see were like sidling along the wall. So they were calling attention to themselves. They would be calling attention from a predator that, oh, look, that's an easy target.
Yeah.
So the visual cues, the nonverbal cues that, again, someone like me who was sighted would be like, oh, I know that people are reading my body language, and I don't want them to read the body language because it's saying that I'm afraid. It's saying that I'm afraid and that I don't belong. And so when we break down those barriers, as you've embraced Walk Fit, those are the kind of barriers that people realize it doesn't matter where you are or who you are. We can all learn from each other. We can all help each other. We can all boost each other up. And that's going to make Worcester, this nation, the world a better place ultimately. So
yeah. I completely agree. And I, having done the Walk Fit training myself, I had that moment where I was like, oh, I mentioned when I first came in here, right, I am so much more noticeable about things. Yeah. And I think when we had done our training with the resident assistants as well, someone had said, even if this isn't something that you want to maybe continue doing, maybe it's not for you, but everyone learned something. Yeah. And I think every single person had a moment, whether it was aha or like, huh, right. some moment.
Yes.
And I even had a moment when I was trying to do something on the computer the other day, and I thought, if I lost my sight right now, right, how would I be able to do my job the way that I do it? And I really couldn't. I was thinking about all the systems I use and, how even complicated they are for me to navigate to like find the right place to click. And now if I wasn't able to have the visual cues, how different things would be. And so I've had a lot of those moments.
Yes, super different, but this is all learned behavior. Mm-hmm. And that's what academia is. That's what scholastic achievement. So thank you, Garland, for giving me and my peeps the opportunity to showcase Worcester too.
Yes. Again, we love Worcester. Our students go out and, one of the, prior to COVID, we have our clinics on campus, and our students, like our dental hygiene students, for instance, would always go onto the common and they'd be like, here's our clinic, and get to know and talk to people. And I was talking to a few the other day, and they said, we really miss being able to go and talk to people outside because, with COVID, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. Walk up to a person in a park and say, hi, would you like your teeth cleaned? I promise I have them behind this mask, and I can do that.
I am going to be helping you in that endeavor. So
yes, please do. Our students love seeing other, love having new patients with all different.
So if people wanted to, because we're at the tail end of the show here, if people wanted to, avail themselves of dental hygiene or any of the other services, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so on our website, mcphs.edu, very easy there. There is a place where you can get all our treatment centers and clinics and all of the information on there. And it's really a great environment because you're helping students, you're also getting a service. I recently went to our acupuncture clinic. So,
awesome.
And all the information and getting connected with those offices is on there. There's phone numbers. There's more information on the website as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being my guest today on Connecting the Dots.
Thank you for having me, not only here, but also at Walk Fit.
Okay. All right. Till the next time.
Please note that the information provided in this show is not a substitute for consulting with an experienced local attorney and receiving counsel based on the facts and circumstances of a particular transaction. To contact Lizbeth, email her at lizbeth@elizabethlmyska.com or call her office at 508-753-7681. We're online at connectingthedots.lawyer. Executive producers, Lizbeth Myska and Jack Peacock. Producers, John Medberry and Bill Hamilton. A production of Elizabeth L. Myska, JD, LLM, in association with Compliments.